Void Hunters, season after season, are always needed in some kind of endgame content, whether that be for Omnioculus, their tether, or for some other reason. But the past 2 seasons, they've been very good at holding their own in solo content, or even just being able to branch away from that more support style play. Last season, it was the addition of a Volatile Flow, where you can pick up a orb and get your volatile rounds, which played very well into a bunch of builds. And this season, it is a whole slew of artifact mods that we have that play into our Void Hunter alongside of our chestplate Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, which is what today's build is going to be about. Now, I'm going to firstly say that I'm coming down with a cold, so this video may not sound the best, so just bear with it. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, as that all helps me out a ton, and I have something special coming within the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for that. So let's have a quick word from our sponsor. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, today's exotic we're going to be looking at is Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, which comes with the exotic perk See Me, Feel Me. Your void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. While you are invisible and defeat a combatant while using a finisher, all of your weapons gain bonus damage. You and your allies gain a reserve overshield and improved class ability regeneration. These reserve overshields can be deployed by using a class ability. This grants volatile rounds for 10 seconds upon exiting that void invisibility. When we get a finisher while we are affected by our void invisibility, we will receive a 35% damage buff for 6 seconds, as well as granting our allies within 24 meters as well as ourselves with that reserve overshield. These overshields grant 375% additional class ability regeneration rate to the base value of the cooldown. And when you have one of these reserve overshields, you simply use your class ability to deploy it and grant a 40 HP void overshield to yourself. And because it is specifically a void overshield, it grants 50% damage reduction. This chest piece has become a favorite among Void Hunters, even more so as it gives them another way to use their invisibility that isn't just smoking teammates with Omnioculus, and opens an avenue where they can do a lot of solo content and not have to worry about their teammates to get their smoke bomb back. For weapons, there isn't one particular weapon I would use with this build. However, there is one legendary perk that I would pair with this build just about every single time, and that is destabilizing rounds. This perk is fairly new and has been amazing to pair with this build. When we get a final blow, it will cause nearby targets to become volatile. This is very helpful in spreading that volatile around to go invisible from Gyrfalcons, then to get volatile from that, and just keep repeating the process. Some weapons that roll with this perk that I have been using or would be using include Hero's Burden, the Iron Banner SMG, which I don't think is dropping normally this season, but you can still use your engrams to get it out of the legacy focusing. We have Age Old Bond, the Last Wish auto rifle, which is now craftable, and it can roll destabilizing rounds and repulsor brace at the same time, so you can get a void overshield even easier. We have the hand cannon from this season, Targeted Redaction. This is good because it is also craftable and can be used for unstoppable champions this season. Finally, we have the weapon I used in the background gameplay, which is Positive Outlook, which is the auto rifle dropping from just regular strikes this season. Now, this auto rifle rolls with a ton of perks, so it might be hard to nail down that destabilizing rounds roll, and quite frankly, I am not a fan of this auto rifle. I feel like it doesn't hit as hard. I feel like I have to use my entire ammo count just to kill thralls inside of PvE, and quite frankly, I'm also not a huge fan of 450 auto rifles inside of PvE as well. I would rather use high impacts or just use 600s. But again, it has a stabilizing round, so it plays very well into this build. But I'm leaning heavier towards the other options that I've given you. I really want that age-old bond, so I need to run Last Wish. For our artifact, we're going to start with obviously void and melee authorization mods to make these particular mods cheaper for us to use in this build. We are now going to look at the juicy stuff, which includes Unto the Breach. When defeating a void debuff target, it creates a void breach while your void subclass is equipped. With the combination of destabilizing rounds as well as Gyrfalcons, we'll pretty much have a never-ending supply of these void debuff targets for us to make void breaches, which will feed very well into protective breach, where when we pick up one of these void breaches, we will get an overshield. Again, we will have a ton of void breaches to pick up, so we will have this void overshield up a lot, as it will refresh when we pick up another void breach. And finally, we're going to look at Supernova. When picking up a void breach, causes your next source of void damage to create a large weakening pulse. I believe this weaken is a 15% buff like the rest of the weakening from the subclass, with the exception of Shadow Shot. This also will play back onto the breach, as it is a void debuff to make more void breaches for us to pick up to make more void overshields and to play into your class setup, which includes vanishing step. So when we dodge, we can go invisible and really help kick off the loop with Gyrfalcons by going invisible and making things volatile. We also have stylus executioner, so when we defeat a void debuff target, we will then go invisible again, turning this build into a very satisfying loop of going invisible, using volatile to defeat targets, and then repeating the process with the inclusion of all of our artifact mods. For our fragments, we're going to start with Echo of Cessation. Finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby combatants to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets create a void breach. This particular fragment is very helpful when it comes to our finisher, as it gives us another way to spread that volatility to our targets and have an additional source to make void breaches, so we can get the benefits from our artifact a lot easier, as well as the benefit from Echo of Starvation. Picking up a void breach or an orb of power grants Devour with a -10 to recovery. With this put into our build, we now have access to all 3 void buffs at any time. Invisibility from Gyrfalcons or our dodge, void overshield from our artifact mod protective breach, and finally Devour from this fragment. Plus, Devour adds a lot of survivability to this build, and all of these buffs are made even better with the addition of Echo of Persistence. Void buffs applied to you, Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour, have increased duration with a -10 to our mobility. With us having access to all of the Void buffs, we're going to want them to last longer to give us a better opportunity to refresh them, and also give us more opportunity to just make use of them. And finally, we have Echo of Expulsion. Void ability final blows cause targets to explode with a +10 to intellect. I put this because I like the extra explosions. It's great for ad clear. I am a very simple man. However, a very good replacement for this fragment would be Echo of Obscurity, so you can go invisible on finishers and then also start the loop that way instead of using our dodge. For our armor mods on our helmet, we have double Ashes to assets, as our grenades on our Void Hunter are more potent compared to our melees, which are mostly used for support. We have Void Siphon, so we can make orbs from our Void Weapons, and destabilizing rounds count for our Void Weapon kills, so that will also make us some orbs. On our arms, we have Firepower, so we can make orbs from our grenades, because again, for Void Hunters, the melee is mostly used for support. We also have Bolstering Detonation, so when we do damage with our grenades, we get some class ability energy back, and the same goes for Focusing Strike on our melee, because we are still going to throw our melee at targets so we can get that weaken from just the general smoke bomb that we have. On our chest, we're going to run Charged Up in order to get some extra stacks of armor charge, and our resist mods, or whatever you wish to run instead. On our legs, I'm going to run Elemental Charge, so after collecting a few Void Breaches, we get a stack of armor charge, and we're also going to run 2 stacks of Void Surge, so our weapons deal 17% more damage to make it easier to get our buffs from all our sources. Again, destabilizing rounds won't, I believe, get this buff, but it's still going to make our weapon hit harder and make it easier to then get the Void Breaches when we do get kills from Gyrfalcons or defeating another target that is affected by Volatile from destabilizing rounds. And finally, on our cloak, we're going to take Powerful Attractor, so when we dodge, we pull all the orbs down on top of us, making it easier to get our armor charge stacks. We also have Time Dilation, so our Void Surges last a little bit longer, and we have Reaper, so when we dodge and get a weapon kill, we will make an orb to again feed back into all of the stuff that we got going on and make it a very satisfying build to play. Now, this build has probably been made already this season, as I'm a little late to the show, but things happen, schedule gets shifted around, and I'm putting it out now. With this being said though, I'm going to start introducing new things into the channel, namely just new games and sources of content, as Destiny is kind of in a very low spot right now. So probably in the next few weeks we're going to see a new game enter the channel, and I'm kind of nervous about it. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Show your support, especially when that video comes out, as I'm venturing into new territory, and I'm honestly extremely nervous about it. But with that being said, that is the end of this video. Put a comment down below with what you like to specifically run with your Gyrfalcon's Hauberk, if it's not destabilizing rounds, if it's a particular exotic weapon, or just any weapon in particular. So I'll see you guys in the next video.